I'm going to tell you about dyslexia today. What is dyslexia? Dyslexia is a learning disability, and it is where a student struggles with spoken language, reading, spelling, writing, and pronouncing their words. If a student has trouble with reading, they're most likely going to have trouble with spelling and writing. A student with dyslexia is directionally challenged, so this can really affect the instructional process in a classroom. It is hereditary, so if the student is dyslexia, that possibly means that their father or mother or another grandparent is dyslexic. Lastly, it is a phonological processing problem. This is where the phonological and phonemic awareness will come into play for the student. Signs of dyslexia for teachers to go by. If a student is struggling with learning their letters and their sounds, then they're going to be struggling with learning how to speak also. And especially for a Hispanic student, the last bullet point is talking about learning a new language. So if this Hispanic student is trying to learn how to speak English, they're going to have a hard time if they have dyslexia. And another bullet point that I skipped over was organizing written and spoken language. This kind of falls into play with reading and writing. Something that I thought was neat was brain imaging. If you're having an MRI done, this MRI is going to tell you that your left hemisphere is for reading. And the next 3 bullet points talk about what your brain does. It supports the visual word form. It is processing of words. And it also is the formation of speech sounds where they kind of start to come into play. Screening dyslexia. Each step in this process of the screening is very important to do. And it also should be a short test because we all know that students have trouble with just sitting there and listening and testing. So each of these bullet points are very important. Phonological and phonemic awareness, sound and symbol recognition, alphabetic knowledge, decoding skills, rapid naming, and encoding skills. Something that I think is very important to go back to is rapid naming. Because if you're flashing a flashcard at the student and they've already went over these flashcards with you, it's possible that they already have these memorized. So you'll need to kind of throw them a loop, maybe mix them up, or use different flashcards for the important test. Accommodations. During the instruction process, you may want to use large print, verbal instruction, and highlighted text. I know as a student today that I love highlighted text. It may not help a dyslexic student very well because it is involving them to read things, but you'll need to go through and explain what you're going for in that highlighted text. Testing. You can use an audio format, or you can sit next to them and give them the test verbally. They should have an access to a calculator and give them no time limit. If they don't have a time limit, then it'll give them a chance to really break down those words and have a chance to just identify what they're trying to understand here. An IEP plan is given to a dyslexia student. This will help the teacher organize her lesson plan and give a chance for them to really break down a way to help the dyslexic student. Assessing dyslexia. I know in kindergarten that in my research, kindergarten is very important for this dyslexia student because if you find that dyslexia in kindergarten, this gives the teacher a chance to really do instruction on their dyslexia training. And it can help them in the long run. As they get older, they can know how to handle these things. Whenever you are tested for dyslexia, the educational testing will be kept in a safe place for the student, and it will follow them throughout the school year and throughout their whole entire educational career. Dyslexia treatment. The key to this dyslexia everything is to identify early on. This way the student can really fly through their school and education. If they have this early identification, then their teachers can help them throughout every single school year. This will help them in the long run, I promise. If you give one-on-one time for the student and teacher, they can really move forward at their own pace, and the teacher can take time with them to really help them understand how to help their dyslexia. What dyslexia does not mean. This does not mean that their letters and numbers are backwards. That's whenever I first started reading about this, that's the only thing that I really thought of whenever dyslexia was brought to my attention. It does not mean that they read backwards. Dyslexia is treatable. And lastly, the child will grow out of it. The child won't grow out of it. They have to be treated for this. And that is the end of my presentation. This is my resources that I use to find all of my information. Thank you.